Today, we are diving deep into a really fascinating philosophical system that tries to answer what might be the biggest question of them all, a question that every single one of us at some point has probably asked ourselves. And that question, of course, is, will I perish? I mean, it doesn't get much more personal or profound than that, does it? Now, the text we're looking at today doesn't just ponder this, it offers a very definitive no. And it builds its case by starting with a completely different understanding of what life even is. This one idea right here is the key that unlocks the whole thing. It suggests that for centuries, we've been looking in all the wrong places. Life isn't the physical stuff, the atoms, the cells, the matter. Nope. It's the invisible form, the blueprint that organizes all that stuff. Okay, so to even begin to get our heads around why this philosophy says life is imperishable, we have to hit the reset button. We've got to challenge that standard material view of existence that we're all so used to. The text draws a really clear line in the sand. On one side, you've got your basic material things, right? A bicycle, a table. They're just collections of parts, totally inanimate. But then there's life. The text calls life an antimatter structure. Now hold on. This isn't the antimatter from science fiction. It's a way of saying it's a non-physical structure, one that has these totally unique properties of consciousness and spirit. So let's give it its proper name, the spiritual antimatter structure. This is the absolute core concept. The best way to think about it is like software versus hardware. Your body, that's the hardware. It's temporary, it wears out. But your true self, according to this, is the software, this invisible conscious blueprint. All right, so with that new definition of life locked in, let's zoom way out. Because this philosophy says the universe itself isn't some random chaotic accident. Not at all. It's more like a meticulously designed stage built for one single overriding purpose. And here it is. The entire order of the cosmos exists for one reason: to serve life. That's a huge idea. It means the universe isn't just a container that life happens to be in, it's an active support system for it. The existence of one literally depends on the other. As long as the universe is here, life has to be here. So how does the universe stay so orderly? Well, the text points to this core principle of symmetry. Just like the balance you see in a taijutsu, that yin-yang symbol, the universe is seen as this perfectly balanced, symmetrical system. And this isn't just about it looking nice. This symmetry is the fundamental law that structures everything. And you can see this symmetry playing out across different realms of existence. The text describes these paradise realms, like a heavenly realm, which are perfectly balanced out by their opposites, these hellish realms. And us, humanity? Well, we're apparently right in the middle, the interface, the crucial meeting point between these two cosmic forces. Okay, but what controls how a life form moves around in this system? This is where a concept called cosmic morality comes in. Think of it less like a set of rules and more like a law of physics, like gravity. It's this impartial, universal force that just makes sure the cosmic scales stay balanced, and it dictates the journey of every single life. This whole idea of a perfectly balanced, closed system, well, it leads us to some fascinating cosmic math. Because if the universe is a closed system, that has some really profound implications for the total amount of life that can be in it at any one time. Which brings us to a pretty logical question, right? I mean, we can all see that the human population is growing. So if the total amount of life is fixed, where are all these new people coming from? It just doesn't seem to add up. Well, the text has a surprisingly direct answer. It tells us to look at another trend that's happening at the exact same time. As the human population has skyrocketed, the total population of animals has plummeted. The argument is that this is no coincidence. They are directly connected. As one goes up, the other has to go down to keep the whole system in balance. So here's the key takeaway. The total amount of life is constant, and the analogy used is just brilliant. Think about the water cycle. The total amount of water on Earth never really changes, right? It just changes form. It evaporates into clouds, it rains back down, it freezes into ice. It's always the same amount of water, just in a different state. The argument is that life works the exact same way. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, but how can an animal become a human? The text gets ahead of this by going back to that antimatter structure idea. It claims that the essential blueprint, that non-physical code, of a gorilla and a human differs by only 0.1%. So from this perspective, for life to transform from one species to another isn't some giant, impossible leap. It's actually just a tiny little tweak to the source code. All right, we've laid all the groundwork. We've got a new definition of life, a universe with a purpose, and this cosmic balancing act. Now, let's put it all together. This is the core thesis of the text, the 5 laws that argue for why life is and must be eternal. Let's walk through these, because this is the big payoff. First, the universe was literally built to support life. So as long as the universe exists, life has to exist. It can't just disappear. Second, that cosmic morality we talked about, it's an eternal law, like a law of nature, and it's always working to keep the system in balance, forever. Third, this means death isn't an end. It's just reincarnation. It's a transformation of form, just like water changing from ice to liquid. Fourth, life's essence is actually part of the eternal spirit of the cosmos, what some traditions call the Tao. You aren't separate from the universe. You are the universe. And finally, the big one, that core spiritual antimatter structure, the real you, the software, is, by its very nature, indestructible. You can't break it. So that's the whole theory in a nutshell. But the text doesn't just leave it there in the realm of abstract philosophy. It actually points to certain real-world experiences as potential evidence for all of this. Now, the text suggests we're not going to find evidence for this in a science lab, but in human experience. It tells us to look at things like the countless reports of near-death experiences, those strange, documented cases of kids having uncanny memories of past lives, or even those powerful, intuitive insights we sometimes get in our own dreams. The argument is that the proof is something you find by looking inward. So when you boil it all down, it comes to this one simple, powerful idea. The physical body, the hardware, is temporary. It's a rental. But that essential life inside, that spiritual antimatter structure, is permanent. You can destroy the body, but you can never, ever destroy the life. And that brings the whole thing right back to you. Because it's one thing to understand all this as a cool philosophical concept. It's a whole other thing to really think about what it would mean. So I'll leave you with this. If you truly believed deep down that your core essence could not perish, how would that change the way you live your life, starting right now?